Alright, here we are. We are taking our first trip with our fully finished, not painted, but fully finished tiny house. Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about tiny house insulation. Different kinds, what to choose, and what different factors are involved in picking the perfect insulation for your tiny house. Let's get to it. So I'm making this video because insulation is super confusing. There's all sorts of types, from rock wool to paper to wool, and insulation is a super critical part of any house, including a tiny house. We all know that a poorly insulated house is not going to keep out the heat, and it's not going to keep the heat in when it's cold outside. And the two biggest factors that are going to be going into choosing insulation in my book are climate, aka where you live. We live in Idaho, where it can get into the -20s, and budget. And my hope for you is at the end of this video that you'll be glad you did your research and you'll be able to walk out and make a much more informed decision on what type of insulation you're getting. Because this is going to be a big part of your overall experience living in a tiny house. And while it may be costly, I would suggest that after doing your research, if the best option is the more costly one, this is something you don't want to skip on or to get the cheaper stuff, because this is going to completely, like I said, affect your experience and really your overall satisfaction with living in a tiny house. So there's a few main types. The type that we are going with is spray-in polyurethane foam. So what it is there's these tanks here, as you can see, and each one of them contains a certain chemical, and the chemical is mixed together. It sprays out and it comes out, and it's pretty similar to those cans of foam. I'm sure you've seen it, that you spray it in gaps. It looks like that. And that's what we're going to be working on and doing today. And what it is you've got two hoses. You can see they're color coded, so it's kind of hard to mess up. And then you've got your gun here that you attach different nozzles to. Now we're going to go into some of the details of why there's so many nozzles and different types later on, but that's what's going to spray out the foam, and it's going to fill in your gaps that are going to be in between your studs here. Now another type of insulation that's really popular is the rigid foam board. You can see we've got some right here, and this stuff is really nice because it's thick, but more importantly it's strong. It's got a high R value. It's got an R7.5. I guess this only has 7.5, so it's not quite as good as that other spray foam, but it adds rigidity to the structure. So what happens is when you wedge it in there, it will actually keep the tiny house from swaying side to side as much. It adds some sheer strength to your tiny house, and that's going to be a huge benefit as you're towing it down the road. You know, the less wobble that you can have, the better. Now the third type of insulation that a lot of people will use as well is fiberglass. This is a fiberglass roll. You can also get it in bats, which you just pull apart basically, and then you'll use a staple gun to staple them on. But this stuff is pretty toxic. If you get it on you, it's itchy. And the polyurethane stuff is also toxic. This stuff here, you've really got to be in a full suit to do it, with eye protection as well as a gas mask that's rated at the right rating in order to be safe while using this stuff, because of the chemicals. And it's a lot more temperamental. So if you're a beginner and you're trying to do this yourself, definitely you're going to get the best R value if you fill it in completely with this stuff here. But it's also the most difficult to do right, and it can be potentially hazardous and dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into that list of tips and tricks that we can use to really determine the best type of insulation for our specific application. First of all, do your research.
make sure that you're taking the time to figure out what's going to be best for you. Don't just buy the cheapest or the easiest or the most available substance, because it's really going to pay off in the long run. A few factors to keep in mind are humidity, R value, soundproofing, and allergens. So humidity can really cause a lot of damage to houses. Water in general is one of wood frame construction's biggest enemy, if not its very biggest enemy. The reason for that is because when wood stays wet for a long time, it can rot, it can lose its structural stability, and it can cause damaging mold, which can make a place inhabitable. And so there's a few things to keep in mind. One is if you seal everything up, like if you're using spray foam and you don't allow any cracks or gaps, water won't be able to evaporate naturally. And so humidity can build, causing damage. But a lot of people will install what's called a passive or even an active vent, which will allow air in and out. This can give fresh air and can allow some of that humid air to circulate. The next factor to keep in mind when choosing insulation is R value. Basically the thermal resistance of an insulator to withstand temperature changes on either side. So that's basically, the higher the R value, the more comfortable you're going to be in your house. The next is soundproofing. Some people have this as a high priority. I myself don't think it matters as much in a tiny house, but it does definitely help to look at the soundproofing if you are in a noisy neighborhood, or if you don't want your neighbors to hear what's going on. We also have allergens, as I talked about, fiberglass being itchy and causing irritation to the skin. It doesn't happen as much in the wall, but it's still good to learn about those things in case you or others are very sensitive to those allergens. And that's basically all the things to keep in mind. If you do your research and you choose what's going to be best in your specific application, you're going to be all right, and it's going to work out, and you're going to be satisfied with your results. I would definitely recommend going more insulation than you think you need, and insulating the floor very well and the ceiling very well if you can. That's going to really give you a comfortable experience, and you'll be happy you did. So thanks so much for watching. As always, if you could go ahead and smash the like button and comment down below, I'll do my best to answer them, and go ahead and subscribe for more new videos coming